This episode of the Cut Podcast Network is sponsored by Better Fantasy. That's Bettor Fantasy. Better Fantasy is a new free-to-play app that lets you sync your fantasy football league and bet on the matchups. You can cash out for gift cards when your bets hit and even help raise money for charity along the way. They're a brand new company looking to grow their early adopter community. They have a slick app, and it's really fun to use. It's a really good time. I lost on myself again. I bet on myself. I vowed to never do it again, and I did it, and I lost. That sucks, but it was still fun. I had a good time. Another reason that we love it is they also offer prop betting. So if you're in a state that hasn't legalized gambling yet, you can get in some prop bets on Better Fantasy. It's totally free to play. Download today for iPhone and Android. Use the code THECUT when you create your account to receive 1,000 Better credits when you start your account. Thank you to Better Fantasy for sponsoring this episode.
Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I'm your host, Christian Williams, and I am here with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I need a good night's sleep tonight. That's for sure. It's been a long weekend and just got off work a little bit ago as well. A lot of friends and family get-togethers this weekend, the weekend before Christmas, and more to come this week. So I definitely need to recharge before the weekend shows up.
Yeah. We have another show after this episode, but if you guys don't catch that one, we did want to say happy holidays to everyone and hope you have a safe travels and safe holiday season and experience this Christmas or whatever you celebrate. It's the week of Christmas, and there was a lot of bad football on this week. There's some good football, but really, I think I just saw Jeff Bell tweeted, I think cumulatively there was about 64 minutes of good football all weekend, and that sounds about right. It was pretty rough.
It sounds wrong, but it sounds right at the same time.
Yeah, and it feels like it might be right, especially with what we're watching right now. We are here to talk through the Week 15 fallout, so your injuries, your highlights, although limited, and then some lowlights. We're also going to give some Tuesday night football previews, which is a rarity and a first time on this year's edition of The Cut. I think we did some Tuesday night previews last year because I think there were some games on Tuesdays. And then we'll also touch on a waiver guy or two or maybe three. We've got like 7 listed, but I don't believe Randy. We'll see when we get there.
Whoa.
I didn't even look at him yet, but
this guy, you'll believe it after we go through his injuries.
It's true. And let's get started. So lots and lots of injuries here in the first week of the fantasy football playoffs. The main one, in my opinion, is that Chris Godwin tore his ACL and is done for the year. The initial report said that he was planning to be out for the regular season because he had a sprained MCL, but further testing revealed a slightly torn ACL, which puts him out for the year. Randy, I know this sucks for fantasy football, but do you expect the Bucs to retain Chris Godwin next year, being that he's a free agent?
No. Mainly because I don't think I know he was on the franchise tag this year. I don't think they can afford another season of paying that, but there is a solid chance. I think it's probably one of those like, well, someone's got to go kind of scenario. And the most likely would be between him and AB. So we'll see which one goes. If I'm Tampa, I'm keeping Godwin as much as possible and getting rid of Antonio Brown in that scenario. There's a lot of vets like Sue and maybe even Pierre-Paul on defense they could kind of get away with, especially after this last draft and then the draft on top of that. So maybe he could stick around, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tougher market to keep players this next year with with an increase yet again. We got a decrease last year, which is a rarity, and we get another increase this year back to the normal. And it's going to be a heavy receiver market, so we'll see. I think that he's going to probably be the top dog, so he's going to set the market.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I think he's going to be. I think his decision is going to come later in the free agency process, especially with the ACL injury. Obviously, teams are going to want to do their evals and stuff. But I do believe that he is going to wait and see what the free agent market looks like, and then maybe say the Bucs do make a run here, which after last night's game, you might say, I don't see it happening. I think they'll be fine though. But say they make a run, they win another Super Bowl. We could see Chris Godwin maybe take a pay cut if the market doesn't look very great for wide receivers, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think a team like the Cleveland Browns should and would pay a large chunk of money for Chris Godwin's services. Next injury, man, I'll tell you what, I don't remember a week in the NFL with this many card-offs where I thought the guy was unconscious or where I knew that the guy was unconscious. Donald Parham was one of them. He was very, very unconscious to the point that my girlfriend, who does not care at all about football, we were watching the game, and she asked me today, she goes, hey, how's that football player? Are you on a plane right now, Randy?
No, it felt like it with that car, though, right?
So
poor timing with the most gruesome injury of the week.
Right, yeah,
Ugh.
tough. So he was unconscious. There was a player in the Jets game that looked like he was unconscious. Teddy Bridgewater looked like he was unconscious. It was a very, very scary concussion injury week. Do you ever remember something like that? Because I don't.
With that many card offs, not necessarily. I think early in the season we had it's tough because we had a lot of injuries early, and I think teams have been overly sensitive with card offs, which is not the worst thing in the world. I'd rather everyone be not try and walk off the field, like with the torn ACL or something like that. So I'm perfectly fine with it. But with Parham, it was just one of the more scarier injuries, especially because it's not like we've seen like that reaction to major hits and stuff. That was just him dropping the ball as he hit the ground. It's very scary. Terrible directing by whoever, I believe Fox. I was covering that game. I don't even remember why zoom in on that player that's unconscious and somewhat seizing. That's disgusting camera work and directing. All signs are pointing that he's doing okay. I didn't get like a full update because they've been kind of quiet on it. But I don't think there's anything traumatic going on there, which is very good because it was very scary. He still had some shaking in his arms as he was being carted off. It's just all awkward and really.
It was not good.
Yeah,
it was not good. But he did post a thumbs up photo on Instagram and Twitter, so I was glad to see that. Also, just a side note, Justin Fields is just picking apart the Vikings defense right now, and I can't hide my excitement. So I had to mention that one.
After the drive started off with one of the weirdest sacks.
Yeah, he's had a few of those. This game. But so yeah, that's the bright note that goes in the highlight section. Moving on from carted off and concussed to a hamstring that should be carted off every week, it seems, for the rest of his career. Julio Jones, he re-injured his hamstring. I assume that he's done for the season. He might be back for the playoffs, but that won't matter for your fantasy playoffs. And ultimately, you probably shouldn't have been playing Julio anyway with how poor he has been with the Titans. I was so wrong on Julio. So wrong.
Well, I was going to say shocker, but this kind of offense, they never really got the chance to be what they could have been. So I don't think there's a necessarily wrong. He's been hurt the entire season. A.J. Brown's been hurt the entire year. Henry absolutely dominated. Then he got hurt. This offense has been disappointing on every front, unfortunately. And I don't think it's anyone's fault, really. Like I don't blame Tannehill. I don't blame these receivers that getting hurt. Obviously, Henry, you can't blame him. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, he was still a top 10 running back in fantasy. And he's been out for a while, which is ridiculous. I think he's finishing top 20 by the end of the fantasy playoffs. There's something stupid.
Yeah, and there were reports that he might come back here soon, sooner than anticipated.
This is a playoff team. I mean, plain and simple, they lost this weekend, but they have a chance to lose their division, even with the very huge lead that they had. But
Yeah,
sorry,
that's the
just
main thing.
7 replays of this like late hit on Justin Fields. It keeps like
It's disgusting.
catching my eye.
We just keep talking about how bad the direction from these broadcasts are. Why watch Justin Fields get just obliterated? I don't like that. But yeah, Julio Jones probably done for the fantasy season. Rondale Moore, grade 1 ankle sprain, probably out 1 to 3 weeks, which also means that he is out for your fantasy football season. Again, not a player that you were really playing, but with how many players are going on COVID, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but Rondale Moore was actually a decent play some weeks, matchup dependent, just a PPR floor kind of guy. Looks like that's done. Do you see an uptick with so now Rondale Moore's out, DeAndre Hopkins is out. Do you see Christian Kirk being a huge play down the stretch?
You would think, but I mean, we saw a very stagnant offense this last week for the Cardinals. In my opinion, I think for this to they now are going to have 2 healthy backs for the most part, so that's I think going to help carry this team, but. I think Kyler needs to increase the targets to Ertz, get like the middle of the field secured for this team, the quick options secured with running backs as well, and let Kirk and AJ Green kind of work the rest of it, where they both can kind of play this possession style of receiver, but they've also been playing deep threat. They've been playing mid, short. So I think you just need to get consistency and then figure it out past that. I think Kirk is obviously the person I'd put my money on in that situation, with AJ Green being a very old veteran who has had a good season this year, I would say, especially for what a lot of people expected. I would honestly, I can't wait till the end of the year when like me and you go through our projections, and I don't know if we'll do this episode or not, but we'll go through and see where we were wrong. And obviously there's obvious reasons why some things go wrong, but I believe we were pretty close on AJ Green. So
yeah, I was higher on him this year than I was last year, which turns out to be right. Although Kyler was yelling at him because Kyler threw a pick and he blamed AJ Green, who should have flattened out and come back for the ball, but like also, I mean,
it's
don't
almost
throw the
like
ball.
he's a double max contract receiver, but whatever.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Rondale Moore out. Pat Freiermuth, another bad-looking concussion. I think that one's, there's a chance he plays this week. I think they probably sit him out this week and have him play next week, but I didn't see any updates on him.
He's probably the first one I would probably expect to play next week.
Yeah.
Which has said something about these injuries.
Yeah, for sure. Next, Sterling Shepard, he tore his Achilles, just getting ready to run a route. I get so sad when we talk about Sterling Shepard injuries because we do it every year and we do it multiple times a year. And I think this one might be the last one that we talk about. I don't know
I would like to, after this episode, I'm not going to do it right now, look at his contract because I think it might be time for a fresh start with Sterling Shepard and the Giants. Just you paid
relegated.
Well, no, I mean you paid a ton of money for Galladay. You overdrafted Tony, who's had some good flashes, which we knew he could do. That's Tony. Good flashes with the bad. So I think you kind of move on from him and maybe take a stab later in the draft this year. But I think him getting a fresh breath of life into him and a new team, and I think that's going to be a good moving forward option.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully he recovers. The dude has been so hurt. I
would expect he does, and with Achilles, it's usually nothing like. But he's had not like it's usually not a bad injury, but I mean like injuries usually don't compile to make an Achilles injury happen. It's usually just kind of a freak injury. But if there was a case for this to compile up to become a thing, it's the guy that's had 17,000 ankle injuries and 25,000 pulled hamstrings and pulled calves. I think his entire legs are just pulled to the fucking max and rolled up too many times. And it's just been detrimental middle to end of the season for a guy that was a fantasy darling for the first few weeks.
Yeah. He was on pace to have a great fantasy year.
Yeah.
But this happens. Next one, Deandre Hopkins, as we mentioned, he is done for the season. He could
just
be
didn't
back
get to
for the
talk about
playoffs.
it. Yeah. I expect him back for the playoffs, and so did the Cardinals. But
well,
doesn't
let's
matter
hope the
for
Cardinals
us.
make it. I know the
Cardinals
Cardinals are pretty much
making
locked in, but
they'd have to lose out, and they still probably get in. It's just go on.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Cardinals in a bit because that showing was bad. We talked about Teddy Bridgewater, but then we started with Godwin. We probably should have just coupled all the Bucks together, but it's okay. Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette both injured their hamstrings, tweaked their hamstrings. 1 to 3 weeks for each of them. We'll talk about this fallout as we get into the waiver wire because this is actually, like you said, after we get through the injuries, now I'm starting to think about all the guys that we could potentially be looking at as actual plays moving forward. This is one team that I would be looking at. So,
all right, let's quickly go through the highlights and lowlights because this is a weird week of fantasy, and it's a week because of all the stuff going on with my get-togethers. I didn't really get to watch in depth that much football, and it was not a good change of pace. I hated it. I love the family time and stuff, but man, did I just want to watch football?
Yeah,
not just regular football, Sunday ticket football. I want all the games, please.
Yeah, that's fair. I did watch a lot of football, and I still couldn't come up with too many highlights. So the first one that we'll talk about, Travis Kelsey had one of the best tight end performances, in recent memory. He went off for 3,000 yards, it felt like, in this game. He was unstoppable. There were people joking on Twitter that a lot of people have been saying that Travis Kelsey's washed and he lost a step. And then there was the joke because he got caught at the 1 yard line that he is washed and he would have scored that a couple years ago. Stop. Travis Kelsey is still as elite as ever. And he finally showed us. I know it's taken a while, but it's taken a while for this Chiefs offense. And I'm honestly not fully convinced that this Chiefs offense has even hit its peak yet. But Patrick Mahomes had an off day and still looked amazing. Do you think that this, obviously we're not going to get 41 points out of him every week or whatever he put out, but
I don't expect even this much passing from the Chiefs moving forward. I think a more ground focused attack is what they want. They just need to be able to have these explosive games with Kelsey, Mahomes, and Hill had a really good day as well. Nice win. It was just all good. They fought hard to get the win. Kelsey did get caught. I will say Kittle would not have gotten caught. Even if that guy did catch him, he would have stepped on his face somehow. Kittle's just the younger. He's just younger. They're the same player. He's just younger. So Kelsey doesn't do the run through everyone anymore, where Kittle does. They're not that much different in age, but Kelsey's getting up there now. So
and then like I said, the Chiefs offense looked a little better, but I still don't think they've hit their peak.
I don't either, but that defense is definitely hit its peak and is overperforming.
Yeah, that's true. Next highlight is the combination of Tyler Huntley and Mark Andrews. Tyler Huntley in this game, 28 of 40, 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. He added 73 yards on the ground as well as 2 touchdowns there. I posed a question, and I'm curious to hear your answer. Do you think Tyler Huntley is one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now?
That played this week, yeah.
That's what some people said too.
No, I don't think he is, but you gotta. If we listed out all of them, you gotta count on the fact like Trey Lance isn't playing. I think right now it would take probably him over Mariota, but he's a high value backup. I'd take him over Case Keenum. Again,
Daniel Jones. Would you take him over Daniel Jones?
No.
I would.
And I don't like Daniel Jones. But
I know you
here's
don't.
the thing. Daniel Jones can play in any system. He might not play great, but he can play in any systems. I'm I'm nowhere near convinced Tyler Huntley could play in any system. I think this is a good fit for him. Just like I don't think, all the let's revisit the draft, and which is a fun exercise, but you can't take it for if then they would be the same player. Just like Josh Allen might not be the same if he was a Brown. Just like Lamar would for sure not be the same if he was a Brown. Situation does matter. It's not the most important thing, but it does matter. And we're seeing it with Mac Jones. He could have a decent rookie year anywhere, but he's having a better rookie year because of where he's at. Huntley isn't a good fit, and he played incredibly well. I think he's going to end up, if he could continue to do this like dink and dunk performance, I think he has a chance to get paid like Garoppolo. But again, it's I don't know if he does at all. That's the problem. I've seen it from him, but it's flashes.
Hypothetically, the Seahawks send Russell Wilson to the Broncos and then trade for Tyler Huntley. Do you like that fit? I don't.
I don't love it. I don't love it because, like, it's just not just because it's a quarterback that can run doesn't mean it's a perfect fit with the offenses. Like,
I agree.
And it's a coaching staff thing too. I don't see Pete Carroll working with that style of quarterback. He can work with Russ because Russ only runs when he has to.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. To couple that though, like I said, Mark Andrews was the highlight of this over the last two games combined. Mark Andrews has, and these are both Tyler Huntley games because Lamar went out pretty early in the Cleveland game last week. Mark Andrews has 24 targets, 21 catches, 251 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
It's up there with the Kittle streak and what's probably going to be now a Kelsey streak. So,
Mark Andrews is the one on the year. So.
It's what should have been the top 3 when we look back at things. I want to say I had him 3, but I might have had him 4. Looking at the depth of like that position, I think even with the youth and the hopefulness of Hawkinson, I think the situation and the lack of receiving options should have allowed us to peg him down a little bit more. I think it's just more excitement for the fantasy season. So in hindsight, we probably should have dumped him down a few. I don't know where he's actually going to finish, so I'm not going to say we should have dumped him down a lot. But Andrews has always been near the top 5. Has always been in the top 5. He's always been near the top 3, and the others. Kittle generally gets hurt, and he's just a consistent option. Waller would be up there. He's had some big injuries this year. Same with Kittle, who's getting up there and is probably top. I know he's top 5 now, but
he has to be.
But he's had a few big weeks. I mean, Waller has a chance to finish strong here and get back up there, but Andrews has always been the consistent option. It's just dynasty-wise, does it continue when you have 2 receivers that are clearly on their way to be a dominant pair? With running options returning.
Yeah, and very good ones. Let's not forget. Like top probably 22 top 30 backs in the league.
2 top 30. We'll say that for sure, but I would usually put Dobbins top 15 depending on the season.
Yeah, for sure. Another highlight, two more highlights actually. So first, we just talked about George Kittle, but the San Francisco 49ers are playing incredible football right now. I wanted to mention them on the highlights. They're a very scary team. We talked about this last week a little bit. This is not a team that I would want to face in the playoffs.
No, they just need to get healthy. They're running, which is literally what they're doing, but their offensive scheme is running to perfection with whoever the back is. Even if they have to do multiple backs to get to what one back could do, they are running to perfection. They're only going to get healthier at this point, and that's the bad thing. The defense still isn't all there, mainly in the secondary. Again, with injuries there as well, and just cap situation, they have been able to keep everyone. But Fred Warner's doing what he needs to do, and the defensive line has been picking it up, especially since the middle of the season. They're a scary team. We've talked about them last week, going over last Monday going over playoff preview, we both were like, well, 49ers are on. There's no question. It's just done with, and that's with Jimmy G. There's no way they switch this year. It does put a leaning concern on next year. I think it'll be we might get to a point where it's like the lesser version of Alex Smith and Mahomes, where the Alex Smith was playing lights out. They won a lot, but the kid, obviously he's not playing as well as Alex Smith did then, but he's playing his game and he's leading this team.
Yeah, he's playing very, very well. Now, Alex Smith was an MVP candidate the year before.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like an undersell of Alex Smith, but it's the same like competitive drive type play I kind of been seeing. Yeah. That was more of my comparison.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last highlight, the Detroit Lions played an incredible football game. I said we would talk about the Cardinals. I'll just mix them in. We can kick off their lowlights. But we do want to give the Lions their credit. Cardinals, though, not good. The first quarter, I believe, and maybe it was down close to the first quarter that they got their third possession. But their first two possessions, they ran 6 offensive plays. It was not good. 2 3-and-outs, and the Lions. That was the performance that I expected out of the Lions for a lot of the year, and it's really nice.
That's the performance that me and you were all over for the Eagles game. Like they were building up to it. We saw the fight. We saw them kind of get around the coach, and they were kind of relatively healthy then too, and it just fizzled out that week. They're not healthy at all right now, and they're just fighting. And you love to see it. It's kind of like the opposite of what like the Bears are doing. But again, we have stressed it's a team was going to be terrible. It's a coach that's probably screwed, even if he does well enough and is a player coach. He's probably screwed because this is a multi-year rebuild. He won't have a good season next year. He'll probably have a repeat of 2 or 3 wins. And it's going to suck for him because he's probably going to get the boot because of it. And this team fights for him though, man. This is what we expected from him. Kind of this is what we thought he could bring. Not elite planning or anything. They brought in coaches because they knew he wasn't doing that. And I don't know if they've really worked out, but we knew this is what was going to happen with him.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's exciting to watch them actually get the results towards the end, because this was there at the beginning of the year too. It's just they weren't getting the results. They were within one score of almost every team the first like 5 or 6 weeks, and then it hit a rock bottom, and now it's back on an upward trend, and that's exciting. So
well, to kick off the lowlights, to go on the other side, the Cardinals, like you said, terrible first couple drives. I believe Kirk had like 40 yards after that third drive, though, and then basically did nothing the rest of the game. So I don't know what to do with that. It was they got ahead, but it was still a close game through the first quarter, through the first half, and then they just exploded out of the gate in the third quarter, a la me against Christian Madden, and there's just no looking back. It's very strange. It really is, because you get Chase Edmonds back, so you get another weapon. Sure, you lose your best weapon. Like, let's not undersell Hopkins being done for the fantasy season and the regular season for real life, most likely. But it's pretty much. I think there's a small chance he comes back the last week, but they've been without D-Hop multiple games, and the offense ran smoothly.
Yeah,
they were without Kyler, and the offense ran smoothly, and they just did nothing. It's not like the Lions were throwing new stuff at them. They played their same defense they've played all year, it looked like, and they just couldn't do anything. It's insane. So it's a low lay for the Cardinals playing terribly, but we're going to take it more as the highlight for the Lions because I think they deserve it.
Yeah, for sure. I will say Kyler probably belongs on his own little block. Yeah. He did not play well. His garbage time stuff helped him out quite a bit, but through that pick, like I mentioned, AJ Green didn't round off his route the right way, or he didn't cut back and get friendly. It doesn't matter. Kyler can't be throwing that ball, and then Kyler gave up on the play, and James Conner made the tackle. I understand that you're a quarterback and you're a tiny little man, but He was just there yelling at AJ Green, and I think that sucks. I think sometimes Kyler sucks. So.
I don't want Kyler making tackles. I can tell you that.
That's fair.
But the yelling at AJ Green instead of just getting off the field kind of thing, which I know it was basically it's not, but like he's still just get off the field. Like you just threw. It's a bad play at both of you. Just get off the field.
Yeah, exactly. First low light or second low light, technically, since we touched on the Cardinals. COVID and injuries this week. Of course, we make it all the way through the regular season of the fantasy football season, and then playoffs hit and COVID hits, and it impacted a lot of football this weekend. Specifically the next thing that we're going to talk about, the Browns and Raiders game that got moved to earlier today or yesterday, if you're listening to the podcast form. That game, the whole outcome was changed by COVID, and I think that sucks, but it is what it is. Like they had policies and protocols in place. They changed their protocols because they realized they may have been a little bit outdated with the new variants and whatnot, but I hate COVID. Do you agree, Randy, or do you like COVID? You pulling for COVID?
What an unloaded question. No, I don't like COVID. No, it's so bad, and we as like society people, we do with a new fair and everything, and being the holiday season, there was going to be an uptick. Unfortunately, it happened to the NFL. It's pretty much the only one that's really been affected. I know the NBA's had some issues, and the NHL, but nothing really major. NFL, I think at this point, through this week and starting going into this next week, have like 150 players in the protocol.
Yep.
And if you add in injuries, we're 200 players just done or out for the week or just done. Yeah, plus. It was just a rough week. And then you add in, it gives you no wiggle room to have a bad game from people. So like the Dallas offense or the Tampa Saints game that had injuries being its own issue there, and you just get strung out. And then a lot of people didn't want to play anyone that played Monday or Tuesday just in case, like the games that got moved just in case, because the numbers did not really get better for those teams. So it was not the worst idea, but man, it's really rough. And then you have like Thielen late inactive today. It's just rough, Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to win in the situations at that point. It's more luck than anything. Unfortunately, it's not luck on how they perform that week. It's just luck that you had people to perform that week for a full game.
Yeah, I gave people advice to start Thielen because the signs were pointing to him potentially playing, and I thought that this was the week. And
I think they just didn't because they expected this from the Bears.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is fair as fuck. I'd just give Thielen the week.
Yeah, it's very fair. However, I will say it's nice having the Tuesday night game, so you do still have options to pivot from.
Almost a perfect transition, but we got a couple more things to go over.
Yeah, that's very true. Do you want to talk about the Browns Raiders? Do you want me to talk about it?
I don't want you to talk about it, but you kind of have to talk about it because I worked during this entire game. I'll preface Browns and Nick Mullins played as well or better than I hoped. Me and you were, Nick Mullins, believers of sort, especially in this kind of scheme. We didn't want to blow smoke up people's asses or anything or give false hope. But this is what me and you thought was a possibility. Nothing spectacular, but good enough to be in the game. That's exactly what happened. They should have won the game. However, it's tough to say COVID from the outside looking in. You could easily say like COVID played a huge part of this game. Browns win if they got everyone. But watching a ton of Raiders games, they played a competition, unless it's the Chiefs this year, then they just play on the ground. Just let them do whatever. But the Raiders, tons of turnovers yet again, or attempted turnovers. But they play down to the level of competition a lot. I don't think I'd say for sure if we got one of the quarterbacks back, the Browns put up 30 points or something like that. But you could probably account for another field goal chance at least. With it being Keenum, Probably another touchdown chance if it's Baker. The offense didn't look incredible regardless, but I thought Mullins didn't do bad, at least from a stat watcher for the night, unfortunately, myself. And then the other way, it looked like the Raiders tried to give the game away again.
Yeah.
Plain and
Derek
simple.
Carr sucked. Derek Carr sucked in this game. He should have thrown all over.
Also, Tat McKinley, possible torn Achilles. That's the rumor so far. I thought there was another injury that Myles Garrett has probably a groin injury. Kind of what I was hearing. I can't remember all of us again. I'm catching up secondhand, unfortunately. And then I believe Raiders linebacker got hurt too. So just add in all the fuckery. It's just terrible.
It's not great. I will. Okay, I'll put together some thoughts. It's been long enough after the game. Main thing: the Browns' offense is shit. It's shit no matter who is at quarterback. It is shit no matter who is calling plays. The offense just doesn't work right now. It doesn't matter who's on the field. Nick Mullins did what he could with what he had, which was not a lot. There were a lot of drop passes. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I believe, had 3. He's not a good receiver.
Wide receiver 1 out. Arguably tight end 1 out. Lineman out. There's an issue. It's not like I didn't mean if all those people in the Browns still lose because they suck, but you never know with the Raiders. That's more my point. But I think Baker I would definitely give the edge to the Browns after just hearing about the game and reading the stat lines and stuff. But they still should have won. I mean, they missed a field goal. They still should have won.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Browns do win if they have Baker, but you can't excuse it. Stefanski would have done the same thing and called 3 runs on when they were trying to ice the game out because he's conservative, and that's the nicest way I can put that. And that's how he taught his coaches to coach, and that's why the Browns lost, because they didn't throw a freaking pass on their 4-minute drill. And it is what it is. The Browns are probably out of the playoffs unless they somehow beat the Packers this week, which they would need all 18 guys off of the COVID list.
Man, so I don't think they have to win this week, personally. But for me, I'm the 7th seed or the division is kind of the Browns' outlook. So that's kind of why I go with that. I kind of expect them to lose this week, regardless of who's on it, unless Rodgers is on it again, or Devonta Adams is on it, or Aaron Jones. I mean, then we could talk a different story. But
that's true.
I'm picking the Packers as of right now
by 2 touchdowns.
Spoiler, it's just they're playing well. Their defense and special teams really isn't, but their offense is, and that's probably all that's going to matter, because it's not like the Browns have this spectacular special teams unit, even when healthy. At least an attacking special teams unit. I think their kicking, like PATs and field goals, has been better than most years for the Browns, and their punting has been the normal, pretty good. Nothing I think Gillian's good. I don't think he's dominant by any means, but their return game's been dog shit.
It's bad. It's very bad. I don't want to talk about the Browns because I'll put my head through.
Let's talk about a worse game. Didn't know that was possible. Bucks versus Saints.
Terrible. Bucks Saints was not good. 9-0, I believe, was the final score. The Bucks were favored by more points than were scored in the game, and that's embarrassing. Saints were terrible, and it didn't matter because their defense was so freaking good. Obviously, Brady lost his top 3 options in this game because Fournette technically would count as his 3rd option. I believe he's the 3rd leading receiver. And
the next top option, AB, was still on his stupidity suspension. So
yeah, he is back now. But so Tom Brady was throwing to a bunch of guys. Keyshawn Vaughn got targets. Tom Brady looked like he was going to shoot laser beams out of his eyes like Superman and fry him.
And then he hulked a tablet.
And then he did Hulk a tablet. And people were talking about it on Twitter, and I'm not going to get into that. I think Tom Brady has earned the right to smash tablets if he wants to.
Yeah.
He can do whatever the hell he wants.
I assume he's paying for it. Let's not act like he's gonna be no, you owe me so much money anyway. I assume he probably has to pay for that, and I know he will.
He can say take it out of my game check this week if you want. But
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this was a terrible game. It was not fun to watch, and I didn't enjoy any minute of it. I will say Cam Jordan getting his 100th sack, that was fun to watch. And
yeah, and like another game that I got to watch bits and pieces of, and I'm glad that's it. It did make me have to look for a bigger story of the game, which was just injuries. But man, it was a tough one to watch. It really was.
Yeah, Taysom Hill is not a quarterback, by the way. For
We
those of
knew
you
that, man, but
I
he
know. I
didn't
like
even
to
have a good
pile on him.
fantasy day.
That's the problem. Like
He basically just ran it. Like there's nothing on the passing side that did anything.
When he tried to throw, he couldn't because he can't because he's a tight end. But all right, last thing, Panthers offensive line. Another guy that had to run it because he couldn't throw it, but not for the same reasons. Partially the same reasons. Cam Newton is a little washed. I will admit that I was a little off. However, Cam Newton was getting pressured or sacked, or just had a collapsed pocket almost every down. This game was terrible to watch. People are laughing about him skipping a ball on a screen. It was on purpose, guys. Know what you're watching before you make stupid claims on Twitter. He purposely threw it into the ground because Robbie Anderson got lit up at the line of scrimmage because you don't call a freaking screen on 4th and 2. That's a stupid freaking play call. Fire Matt Rule.
Didn't really see a lot of Twitter blowing up on Thursday when Mahomes did that 3 times, but whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny.
No narrative there, right?
Yeah.
No, the Panthers' offensive line isn't good. We knew they were going to be a somewhat struggling offensive line. I don't think we knew it'd be this bad. So
yeah. Well, they haven't even played their best players. Brady Christensen, they drafted him, and then they haven't played him at left tackle, and he's better than anything they have. So, fire Matt Rule. I don't know. All right. Do you want to talk about any other negatives?
No.
All right. Let's talk about some Tuesday night football games. The first game that we'll talk about is the Washington football team at 6-7 going to Philadelphia to face the 6-7 Eagles. The Eagles are 6.5 point favorites, over under 42.5. Randy, how are people betting?
Honestly, not surprisingly, 76% of the bets are on the Eagles here, and those 6.5 points. I believe I picked the Eagles easily in this game. Injuries and COVID to Washington makes this pretty much no-brainer. But I would say going into the week, it was no-brainer that the Cardinals would win. So maybe not by a lot, but it definitely wasn't in the cards for them to lose by a lot. Pun not intended. And they did. So I think Washington with Rod Rivera there, and they've just been built as a scrappy team. So don't be absolutely shocked if this is a fight, but I'm fully on the Eagles side here. And then it's a complete split currently on the over-under, which is at 42.5. I'm not sure if you said, but yeah, I mean, usually we pretty much have only covered the Thursday night games, and usually those are the under. I would expect this to be an under, but it's not a high line. And the Eagles, we know, can score 30-plus points, and we know Washington fights. So I really don't know how this game's going to go out score-wise, but I still think Eagles win pretty handily.
Yeah.
Whether that's just by dominance or by points, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the main factor in that is Garrett Gilbert is starting in this game as of right now. Taylor Heineke is on the COVID list, as well as Kyle Allen. There's a chance that they get Kyle Allen back. The difference between Kyle Allen and Garrett Gilbert, I'll leave that up to you, who is making the decision on the two. I don't have a preference. I think they both are not very good. But fantasy relevant players here, Antonio Gibson. Eagles are pretty tough against the run. Are you a little nervous about Gibson's outlook this week?
No, but it's mainly because it doesn't look like McKissick's playing either. So I think you could pretty much just assume he gets an abundance of touches, especially with possible quarterback situation. So, I mean, I think he gets the touches, and if you get that many touches an opportunity, you have to play it. Like, there's no question he has to be played. And it's a Tuesday game, so, I mean, you're probably playing him if we're still talking about him, but...
Yeah, that is true. I'm just watching the Bears. Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
So with the quarterback situation, I challenge all of you, if you're listening on the podcast form or if you're watching live, just watch my reactions. You might be able to line up something stupid that the Bears did with one of my reactions while Randy's talking, or even while I'm talking. But anyway, so the quarterback situation, do you think that impacts Terry McLaurin? Do you think that impacts Ricky Seals-Jones? Those are really the only two guys that I really have interest in. Do you have interest in them
I think
this week?
I don't know if I don't believe I played Terry anywhere I had him, or if I have him, I have like Rashad Petty to switch from him, or like one of the Eagles or Rams players. Just like, I think he's kind of been struggling. You add in concussion, it's not even a full go if he's playing yet or not. I don't believe, because they're more worried about COVID than giving us concussion updates, and even if he plays, I think he could get hyper targeted, but I just don't think there's an explosive game necessarily. So I think in a tight situation, I'm fine playing him, but it's like, And then Seals-Jones, I mean, for him, he's kind of the last option left that has name value, like you're going to play. So especially if McLaurin somehow doesn't play here, I think Seals-Jones becomes the second most targeted person besides Gibson. So I think he is very, very playable, but we'll see.
Yeah. Another interruption. I'm so glad they overruled that and called it a touchdown. As I was starting Justin Fields in a lot of spots. So
I'm sure it mattered a ton.
It didn't. Yeah, I kind of agree though. Terry McLaurin, I think that he's a little less QB proof than we want to give him credit for. People want to just trash Taylor Heineke.
He's D-Hop light. He's D-Hop light right now.
Yeah. But I think this one, if he plays, is going to impact him a little bit more. On the other side of things, though, Jalen Hurts is still hobbling a little bit on that ankle, but he is going to go in this game. Do you have concerns about his rushing production in this game? And then that would mean his fantasy performance, right?
I think there'll be a limited designed runs, but when you have what's going on in Washington right now, if Hurts wasn't at least 85-90% and could run the ball, you don't play him. I don't care if it's a game that you really need to win to keep in playoff hunt. You're going to win this, and especially with how the offense works without Hurts and still ran fine with Gardner, you don't rush Hurts back out then. You give him another week, especially with all the delays and having to have a short week next week because of it. You would just give him the week, and he's playing. So I think you full sit him, maybe less design runs, but most of his runs don't really come from design runs. It's just him just running. So I think he has a good game. Honestly, I played Kyler over him in one league, only because I wasn't sure if he'd actually play. Otherwise, I would have played Hurts, even knowing who Kyle was actually going to be playing and then getting destroyed by, but I didn't know that at the time. So I don't know.
Yeah. I'm playing Hurts in a couple spots, but I am a little skeptical that he'll be able to put together an elite, like top 5 performance personally.
Yeah, but I think it's almost a lock for him to get 30-40 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
And just getting that much is going to be enough for him in this kind of game where I think he can kind of light it up through the air if he has to. And I think Sanders can have a pretty big week as well.
Yeah. So Sanders, you're playing him. You kind of have to, again, with everything that's happened, you don't really have options at this point. You're either playing him or you're picking up like Travis Homer, who I don't even think is playing. So
No. I mean, like I would play Sanders over Penny, I think is the way we could broach the topic. I don't think I play him over Henderson. With him playing, I don't think I play him over Gibson necessarily. I think it's really close on that one. But, again, like if he's in your lineup right now, you're playing him. But if it's like daily fantasy or something, I think he could have a really good day. Because you just never really, even if you think Hurts can have a good day through the year, you really don't know if he will. So Sanders has been pretty consistent since he's been back.
Yeah, that's true. Devonta Smith, Dallas Goddard. Again, guys that you're playing, I would personally temper expectations for Devonta. I think that Dallas Goddard's the safest option in this game.
Yes, 100%.
And on either side of the ball, I think he's the safest. So, anything else you want to talk about with this game?
No. I mean, those are the only 3 Eagles options you would go with. I think it's a fun, if you're doing some daily fantasy lines or Thrive lines, I think it's going to be a fun day for it. But we'll see.
Yeah. Next game. So we have a doubleheader on Tuesday. Seattle Seahawks, 5-8. Seahawks, very, very bad for them. Are going to Los Angeles to face the 9-4 Rams. Rams are 7-point favorites at home, and the over/under is 46.5. How are people betting?
In a must-win game for the Seattle Seahawks, they are very big underdogs on the betting line as well as the points. They're 70% of bets are on the Rams and a -7, which is, I mean, I think if it was 7.5, it'd be much. I think it'd be closer to like 58, 60%. But man, people are full sending the Rams, even with people still kind of not fully back from the COVID list yet. But they're still full sending. I think it's just lack of belief in Seattle. But I think there's a good chance Seattle can win this game, man. I think this is going to be the best game of the whole Monday, Tuesday, Sunday night slate kind of thing. I think this is the game I've been wanting to watch. And it could be a blowout. It really could. Like, the Rams could just hop on, dominate the Seahawks team. This offense could just not be what we've seen the last couple of weeks. Could be the first couple of weeks of Russ back and just like that, and just be terrible. But I think Penny's going to give them enough to make the rest of the offense work. Unfortunately, with Lockett out, I'm not sure the passing game I want to care about necessarily. But bets are on the Rams, and 68% of bets are on the under. That's the kind of games where I think Seattle could win, though. So
I agree there.
Give me 19-12 Seattle.
It would be such. It's got to be.
I
We've got to get.
I fucking hate Seahawks games.
We've got to get a scoregami out of this game. I feel like we deserve it. Although I still don't believe scoregami. I think they're faking it every time they say, "Oh, that's a scoregami." No chance. No chance that there's not been a game with that point total. You're lying now. Scoregami. I'm gonna find out who runs that account. Confront you. Yeah, I think the Seahawks have a pretty good shot. Yeah, it would be. Good God. So the Seattle players that you're interested in, Wilson, we mentioned Rashad Penny, DK Metcalf, Gerald Everett probably are the 4. DK, how confident are you in him?
He's one of my sits of the week. It is before the Lockett news. I'll say that with COVID, and I think he still has a chance to play. By the way, just by like 2 p.m. Tomorrow. But
this is true.
Here's the
I wanted to mention though, Jalen Ramsey is still on the COVID list as well.
No, didn't he get activated today?
Maybe I missed that.
I swear, vamp. I'm definitely not typing.
Yeah, I guess I missed that, but if Ramsey is out there, I think
quarterback Jalen Ramsey, latest key Los Angeles Rams player, if I can speak, back from the COVID list. So he was activated, on track to play, obviously because of that.
So DK is going to get kicked out of this game. That's what you're saying.
So basically, Metcalf versus Ramsey has never been fun for Metcalf owners. He can beat him, just like he's beaten Gilmore in the past and other top-end corners, but it's usually over something magnificent from him or Wilson or a combination thereof, just making the play kind of for him. Anything normal, Ramsey's going to take him out of the game. Well, he's not going to get a bunch of 8-yard core routes. He's not going to just streak deep and get everything up. But for him to have a good day, he's going to have explosive jump ball catches, or he's going to have like the Gilmore touchdown or the Gilmore catch. I don't even think it was a touchdown, but where Wilson literally puts it the most perfect ball placement you could have, sailing just over Gilmore, and only Metcalf can catch it. Like, that's what we're needing, and that's why I think you play Wilson kind of naked in like a daily situation. I think if you really need explosive plays, again, like you're probably if you kept these guys in your lineup to play, you're hoping for an explosive day for Metcalf. That's the only way I think he really scores is big plays like that. So there's definitely still a chance he has a really good fantasy day because of stuff like that. But for me, I think Wilson can have a grinded out pretty good day. I think the Seahawks to win need this to be a low scoring affair. So I think Penny is the only option I truly care about with a lot of dump downs to himself and Everett.
Yeah. I'll talk about Penny in a second. So we'll just move to the other side of the ball. Matthew Stafford, Daryl Henderson, Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, Tyler Higbee, and then also Van Jefferson. Van's had a couple he's a pretty consistent 10 fantasy point player at this point with the upside of like a touchdown.
It's coming from like 1 to 2 catches. That's the only issue I have with Van. But in a daily situation, that's the kind of player of this kind of slate that you would pick, though, for just huge upside at a lower cost. In fairness, Odell's not getting much more catches, so
yeah, that's true.
I think from a fantasy standpoint, from people that don't own Kupp, you want this to be a spread out game from these 3 receivers, and maybe Higbee if he's back, which I know he's on the list, but I don't think he's fully back from the list yet.
I hope he stays there. As someone who's
probably will. In my opinion, I think he probably stays there, but we'll see. Stafford can have a good game regardless. Again, for me, someone that picked the Rams, let's not mistake this. I think the Rams win. However, this is either Rams destroy Seattle or this is such a close, grinded out game that Seahawks have every shot to win. Like, there's no in between for me. I don't think this is 27-17. I think this is either 34-10, 34-13, or it's 19-15. Like, that's what I'm thinking. So Stafford, obviously you're playing him, but I think he's the quarterback you're safest in playing this week for like DFS purposes for Tuesday, because I think even with those grinded out games, he has a chance to get the 2 touchdowns or 300 yards. So good there. Henderson, I think, can have an enormous day against the Seattle defense. So,
yeah. I don't have too much there, so we'll just move into our Thrive picks. Randy, what is your Thrive lock? There's a Tuesday night slate, so if you guys are playing Thrive Fantasy this week, make sure you go do that.
Go play it.
Today. Yeah, Randy, what's your lock?
Mine, I just talked about him. Daryl Henderson, 75.5 total yards. Even in the limited games he's played of late, it feels like he's gotten relatively close, I think, in the last one.
I think he had around like 55, 57, but still that's pretty
but
close.
But that's on the ground, and I think he got like 15 through the air, so he was like right on the line. Yeah. I think he breaks this game, and it gives you more points than the under, so I'm taking it in a weird slate on a weird day, in a weird league on a weird week.
Yeah, the weirdest week. My lock this week is actually the other running back, Rashad Penny, 55.5 rushing yards, and I'm hitting the under on this. And the reason I'm hitting the under on this is just because I think that even if this game ends up being a grinded out type of game, I don't think that Penny's going to be able to do anything. I think the reason that it'd be grinded out is because the Seahawks defense is playing well, but that also means that the Seahawks aren't scoring points. I think that Penny is going to get bottled up in this game, and so I'm taking the under.
I'll tell you what, man. We are going to disagree on this one because I think Penny gets 57 yards on the ground. It's going to be very, very fucking close. I just think the amount of opportunity, he has every chance. I don't think there's any way you are enjoying this line. Because if you hit the under, like Christian is, I'm going to hit the over, so one of us is winning this. If you hit the under, I think all game, you're going to be like, oh, fuck. Oh, there's another 2 yards. Oh, there's 3. True. No, not 3. And he's going to get 46 yards. And then he's just going to get one play, gets him to 57 or 56 even. You're going to be absolutely pissed off. And then he's going to rush for negative yards, and I'm going to cry. I don't think either of us are going to be really happy unless we get this one huge rush like we did for last week. the Damian Harris just big run where I was just like, yep, there we go, thank you. Like
That'll do it. Yep.
Check. Like I don't think we get that, but that's the only way he dominates this line, in my opinion. I don't think he has anywhere near the rushing yards he did last week. He could get close to the yardage. I'm not gonna assume the usage because I have no idea what the fuck it's gonna be through the air or on the goal line necessarily. But this is probably a game where he gets about 75 to 100 total yards with about 60 on the ground and probably a score. That's my hopeful stat line for him. But we'll see.
I don't think so. I think it might be 40,
No,
60. 40
it
yards
very
on the
well
ground,
could be, or it
60,
could be 50-50, and
Yeah.
you're right. That's
And
what
he still
I'm
has a good
saying.
day. Yeah.
I'm going against it, and I don't like it. It's just what I think is happening, and I'm going to absolutely hate it. And I think there's a good chance the scenario I said happens where he gets to 56, 57 yards and gets negative 2 yards unless he somehow takes the knee and just fucks us all over. I don't understand it, but it's going to happen in Seattle. I don't trust anything.
Yeah. All right. We need to speed run through the waiver wire wish list. So
Which
we're
is
going to
fine.
hit that right now.
First, I'll
go
just
ahead, first one.
I'll do a couple of these very, very quickly. One,
Okay.
Craig Reynolds. Swift, I don't believe, comes back. Williams,
Probably not.
I thought was going to come back. Hasn't yet. Probably just shut him down. Fuck it. See what you got in the rest of these guys. So I think he has a chance to continue this kind of workload. Took him 2 games to break 100 yards. He beat Barry Sanders to that line. I'm joking about the comparison, but it is a fact. So I think he's got some semi-talent. I think they want to figure that all out with him and Jefferson. So I think it's a good value there. Amon St. Brown, 3rd straight double-digit target game. Play him, pick him up. Don't be stupid. Gabriel Davis, we told you this would happen. Don't be stupid. I don't know the percentages on these people because I put them in really last second. But just go check. Waiver wire's dead. Just figure this shit out. You know who to look for. We're just saying them all right now.
Yes. I'll add. Thank you for leaving me Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones. The talk on fantasy Twitter today was, is Ronald Jones a league winner? Yeah, he always was. We knew this. No, we didn't know this, but
I quickly wanted to go to the people we've said for 2 straight weeks. Ronald Jones, I was leaving you verbatim.
Yeah. Well, Rojo now walks into a ton of opportunity. Keyshawn Vaughn sucked. I do think that the Bucs will still use some type of a back on 3rd down over Ronald Jones, but I also think that if Keyshawn Vaughn keeps sucking, I think Ronald Jones could actually get some catches. He, I believe, saw 2 this last week. Didn't do a ton with them, but I think that changes when they game plan with him.
Key thing for me there, if I'm Tom and Arians, I trust Rojo to be a pass blocker more than I trust Vaughn. And I trust neither to be passing options, really, except for a couple of game. So I think Rojo stays on the field is my biggest thing there. And that's all you want. In a Tom Brady-led offense where he can check at any second, I think that's what you want. So I think he's definitely playable and most likely a league winner without looking at the schedule.
The other 2 Bucs that we need to hit, Antonio Brown, go check and see if someone dropped him earlier in the year. He will be back this week. Bruce Arians did say that. And then Tyler Johnson also deserves looks with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin now being banged up. I wouldn't be shocked to see Jalen Darden get involved, but I would want to see that for a week first, and I wouldn't play Jalen Darden.
Perryman is also on the COVID list, so just another receiver out. For me, like Scotty Miller is in the mix again because he's healthy again. But you got, if Mike Evans is out, which is where Tyler Johnson becomes valuable, you have Antonio Brown, Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, and Darden. Pretty much, I would only care about Tyler Johnson on the outside. With Antonio Brown obviously there, but I think they continue to use him in a mixed slot role, especially with Godwin out. I think they just give him Godwin's full role, which is the smart move. But Johnson, I think, could have some big upside if everyone's out in especially multiple weeks, which could happen for Evans. So,
yeah, for sure. And then the last guy that we definitely need to talk about is Duke Johnson. So Myles Gaskin missed the whole week of practice, but then was active, and he did play in this game. But Duke Johnson looked like, 2000, whenever Duke Johnson was actually good for the Browns, that's what he looked like in this game. He actually looked better, in my opinion. He looked like a power back, and he looked like an explosive back, and he was definitely feeling his return to Miami to play for a Miami team for the first time since college, which is pretty cool. Very cool story that happened in this game.
Pretty cool. Very
But,
cool. Biggest thing with him, a fun game, frustrating game if you have any other Dolphins running backs, obviously, but and a frustrating week for the Dolphins as well. Victory, but frustratingly so. But for me, does he continue with the role? I don't fucking know. Like I want to sit here and say, obviously Gaskin next week takes this role, shoves it down anyone's throat that picked up Duke Johnson, and just dominates. But Gaskin's a better runner. He's a better pass catcher. But it's the fucking Dolphins. I have no idea. It's a team that should have and could have drafted a running back in the first, second, or third round the last 2 years. Refused to do so. People are going to continue to mock that this next year. Fucking doubt it. Look at the line. And look at the receiving core that they'll probably revamp this year. So it's just a full-on pick him up if he got the fucking space. Rojo, easily first priority. I think Reynolds is a priority over him, but he's the third option at running back.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that'll do it for the waiver wire wish list, and that will do it technically for this episode of The Cut. Randy, I do want to ask, when are you seeing Spider-Man? Do you know? Do you know?
So, I do know. I am actually watching it tomorrow.
Okay.
I have tickets for like 7 o'clock.
Okay, good deal. We will definitely talk about Spider-Man with some spoilers on Wednesday's show. Thursday.
Yeah, we can. You were kind of frustrated my lack of watching Hawkeye. If you want to quickly cover that from last week, I did watch it. Obviously, the next day, tremendous episode, really, really in depth.
Yes. I don't even remember what happened after seeing Spider-Man.
Well, it's just like the somewhat early split between Hawkeye and Kate, and then really just went right back after Kate's mom turned in Jack, but seemed a little fishy from the get-go. And then obviously the other episode makes it seem fishier. Yeah, so like if you look through like a lot of like that kind of comic, I believe it's either Kate's like mom or dad is one of the bigger Hawkeye villains near like after like this kind of part. I believe it's the dad, but obviously in this scenario the dad's dead, so it'd be the mom. And then there's a swordsman that's probably Jack, like so they're both probably evil, and they're clearly both evil after the Kingpin showing at the end.
God, I can't.
What do you think of the casting of Kingpin, though? Let's say that first.
Incredible. They had to bring him back. Vincent D'Onofrio is Kingpin, for those of you who don't know who that is. I didn't even watch all 3 seasons of Daredevil, but I have seen the scene in which Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, it's kind of like the culmination of Daredevil. It just incredible. He is an intimidating dude. I saw Haley Steinfeld talk about what it was like. So he's confirmed to be in episode 6, like actually in it, just a photo of him, obviously. But she said like it's intimidating to even stand underneath him. He's such an imposing figure, and I think that's so cool that like he's such a good actor that he scares the actor that he's working with. Like that's very
good.
Cool. So
it's
it's
the non-crazy effect that Heath Ledger had in the Joker, which made him just incredible in it. Deservedly so a memorable piece of acting for the rest of history. And I think he has a chance, depending on how large his role is in the future, to have a very big impact on how normal villains are viewed and portrayed in Marvel from now on, where they really haven't been like that important, like they're just like the normal stepping stone, because there's always been, especially as the longer we go here, has been like big time villains, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Iron Man has had some normal villains, and I think they've been kind of underwhelming through the years. I think this is a different way of having it, especially introducing Daredevil more towards movies and other characters. But man, it did look like they made him put on a couple pounds. I don't know if they made it. The picture
He may have
looked
just done
bigger.
it.
The picture looked bigger. Yeah, which I know that was some people's criticism of his casting and Daredevil, and it's like, he's supposed to be all muscle and just huge, which he looks all muscle and kind of huge in Daredevil. You're like, no, 70 more pounds of muscle. That's not possible and look fat. That's just comic books, guys.
Yeah, I know. I'm interested to see what
at that point. That point, just have like the mountain play up. Like that's what you want. I mean, I just don't think he's as good an actor, which isn't his fault. He's just very good.
Right. I want to cut this off because we'll talk about. Never mind. We'll just talk some more Marvel on Thursday after you see Spider-Man.
It's just I don't know how much we'll dive into. Last
will.
Episode of Hawkeye, unfortunately, with Spider-Man probably.
Maybe we'll do a bonus episode this week. Maybe we'll just cut it off and then record it as second episode.
Some bonus. No, it's just that's pretty much all from the episode though. From Hawkeye, kind of revealed himself to Maya.
Yelena was awesome too.
Yelena was awesome. Found it weird though that like Kate didn't bring up why she was there to him. Not the very end part, because obviously she didn't know that at that part, but she he didn't know who she was, and then he told her who she was. He didn't tell her why she's sent here. Like tell him why he's sent here.
Right.
Like come on.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk a lot more Marvel this week. I can't wait for Randy to get out of Spider-Man tomorrow night because I expect a text. I will say, non-spoiler review of Spider-Man. It's the best Marvel movie I've ever seen. I know some people are pushing back on various aspects. We'll talk about it more. It is my favorite. I think that one of the ones upcoming will be more my favorite, though. So
I talked about this before. When there's this much hype on a movie, there's always going to be people that don't enjoy it fully because one or two things that they have been dreaming about for years just didn't happen exactly how they wanted to or didn't happen at all. So there's going to be detractors from a big movie like this regardless. There was detractors from people within Infinity War and Endgame as well. Don't forget that. That's going to continually happen with these huge Marvel movies. It's not going to be everything because they're not having 5-hour movies.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we need to get out of here. We've gone far too long on this episode. Make sure you guys check out all the wonderful podcasts that are on this feed. This week, the Coach Approach will be out again. So 2-week hiatus with the holidays. They will be back, I assume, next week, but if not, they'll be back soon.
Do we have our Friday? Is DFS coming out Friday? Do we know? Are they recording early?
TBD.
Okay.
I think they're gonna have an episode. I just don't know when it's coming out. The College Football Cut will be back this week. It won't be solo Adam, I don't think. We'll make that work.
Man, it's been a bad couple weeks.
Yeah, it was a good episode though. Shout out to Adam for pulling through, and I hope that Jared's kid actually was getting sick, and so I hope Jared. Yeah, I hope your child is okay.
I just needed you to finish that sentence.
Yeah. All right, guys. Make sure you guys go check out all those episodes, like I said. But we will be back on Thursday morning, and then who knows? Maybe we do actually put out a bonus episode because I'm sure there will be a lot to talk about. So
we'll see. I don't know if Sean watched it. Sean is going to be there for the next episode. So
he saw Spider-Man already.
Okay, good.
So we can just do a full hour. We're just going.
No,
we're
not doing a full hour. No.
We'll see. All right. We need to get out of here. Anything else to add, dude?
No.
All right.
Run away.
For Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. Talk to you guys later this week. Peace.